We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, welcome back. This is Elite Barbecue Smokers. It's the Barbecue Round Table. Glad y'all stopped by. Hope you're enjoying it. So we're gonna have a good time. Got a good guest on the show tonight. We're gonna see what we got. So let me get everybody involved. Let's get this party started. Introduce yourself, boss man.
My name is Dave Dick. I am the pitmaster of Ham Squad.
Ham Squad. Um, so you got to tell me first off, let's go kind of a backstory here, because you've been cooking a little while. We kind of met in the backyard in Rufus D series, but give me kind of a backstory of kind of like how did you kind of get a passion for cooking? Where did it start from?
Great question. I got a passion for cooking from my mom. It wasn't anything crazy, but just, we always had a home cooked dinner every night. It wasn't going out to eat, that was kind of a treat, but, really just family cooking and on holidays and really just getting out there and trying different things. I didn't start grilling or smoking meats until after I graduated from college, really. So my background is education, and that's what I do for a living. I work in the education field, and I just started cooking barbecue stuff after college. My dad got a smoker at Home Depot, one of those like smoker slash gas grill kind of combos, and we just started cooking a little bit. We live in southeastern Virginia, so a lot of similarities to eastern North Carolina. So lots of hog, lots of pork, and that's kind of how I got into cooking in general. Absolutely.
So it's like everybody else. We started on a lot of people start on Weber's gas grills. That's where we all started at, and then we just ended up taking it to an insane level. But that's kind of where we all kind of get the passion for it. It's kind of cooking with the family and just stuff. So one of the things that's kind of like really inspires you with barbecue, kind of one of the things that brought you out of it. I mean, not brought you out of it, but kind of it gives a passion to continue to cook. What is it? Is it fellowship? Is it just
Yeah,
challenging yourself? What is it?
it's really just the fellowship. I love, if any of, most of my friends know, usually I'm not out there chasing points or, just cooking on my own. I like to cook with people. I cook with Steve Dotson a lot with DQ'd barbecue. Especially now that I'm in the Master Series, I have a little bit more flexibility to kind of cook with people and not be careful just carrying boxes and losing my backyard eligibility. But I cook with the Wades, with Optimus Swine. I've gotten invited from Toby Grimmett with Poor Boys to cook a contest, and I just love going out there. I like seeing on the competition circuit. I love the camaraderie and the friendship. In the non-competition world, I do a little bit of catering here and there just for fun, but it's not the money for me, because we all know catering, you're not making a lot of money. But it's
True.
going out there and somebody being like, man, this is the best rack of ribs I've ever had, or like the best piece of chicken I've ever had, and they probably haven't had the most diverse selection, but it's always fun to do that. So whenever I get to go to like Ace Hardware or anything like that and cook for them, it's always just a fun thing to do.
I think that's one of the things about cooking food, especially barbecue. It's like most of the time everybody's happy. I mean, I've said this on the show many times. I deal with construction, I deal with stressful situations, but with barbecue, with food, everybody's always happy. I mean,
Yeah.
I, I I don't know if it's just because we can bless to be able to cook good food or what it is, but it's like everybody walks away happy, and it's a relief just to be able to enjoy that.
Yeah, it really is, and I just love when people start to learn how to cook. I have that education background, so actually, Jason Wade at from Optimus Swine and Two Drummers. I'm at the butcher shop right now. We just finished a grilling 101 class for some local people that we do on Tuesday nights, and just the excitement from people and the questions that they're asking, and it's not all about, a lot of people ask me, well, how are you going to get more competition teams? And it's not about that. It's about just getting out there and cooking and trying new things and grilling and learning and trying new rubs and making something, right? You might not be very good at
Yeah.
building something, but you might be really good at cooking something, which to me is kind of the same thing.
And that's a good point here. And if any of y'all watched the show over the years, man, that's kind of crazy. But if anybody's ever watched the show and stuff here, the whole purpose of this show is encourage people to get out there and cook. Either cook at home, try something new. I don't care if you cook in competition barbecue. Go out there and cook a tri-tip. Try something new. Just go out there and just experiment with flavors, experiments with rubs. And I've said this kind of before, I think I have, but if you want to really blow your mind, get some chicken breast and get 4 different rubs and put 4 different rubs on chicken breast and cook them and just see how the rubs taste different. It'll really blow your mind of how that rub gets into it. But the whole purpose, like I said, the purpose of the show is encourage people to go out there and cook and enjoy it and fellowship with it and just have a good time with it. Because if we do that, then competition is competition. But I just want people to feel comfortable going out there and competing, or not competing, but going out there and cooking and grilling and have a good time with that.
I like my favorite thing about grilling and barbecuing and is now some people will disagree on the barbecue competition circuit, but grilling and cooking in general, in my opinion, it's not quite as precise as baking, and some of those other things that you might have to focus on. You get a little bit more flexibility. You can try cooking chicken on a low temperature or a high temperature. You can, just like you said, Jason, you could try different rubs, different sauces. And when somebody that doesn't know anything about like barbecue rubs and barbecue sauces sees my seasoning shelf at home, they're just like, what's wrong with you? But it's cool because you can mix and match different things, and it's like a game. It really is, just cooking at home.
Oh, it is. It's definitely a challenge just to see kind of like, okay, this rub, how's this rub going to work different with this piece of meat? How's this injection is going to make a difference? It adds use to it.
Mhm.
And crazy part about it is, if you, it's also like injections, kind of off topic a little bit, but if you make an injection on Sunday and you use it on Saturday, it's going to be a different flavor than if you make it on Wednesday and use it on Saturday.
Yep.
We've kind of played around with some of that and found out that for us, the optimal time to make it is on a Wednesday, because it gives it time to still maintain the pH and all that scientific crap. But it's a lot of detail into it. So, kind of get back into the competition side of it. So, how did you come up with a team name?
The team name was just something that I kind of stumbled on when I entered a contest in, I want to say like 2016 or 2015. I did a backyard contest in Lenexa, Virginia. It was called Pickin' in Poland. They had it for a few years. It used to be huge. It used to have about 50 backyard teams sign up for it. But I remember getting there and thinking, oh, it's a pork cook-off, because again, just raised on barbecue. Barbecue was just pork. I didn't think
Right.
about the other meats and I get there, and we had, I had made T-shirts, and those people that know me know I go over the top with some of the branding stuff just because I think it's fun. But I get there, and again, team name's Ham Squad. I'm like all porked out, and we're at the cooks meeting, and it's like a KCBS esque backyard contest. Is when backyard really wasn't regulated a lot. And I remember them saying something about, make sure you have, St. Louis or baby back ribs. And I was like, oh crap, I gotta go buy some ribs because I didn't know I was cooking ribs. And then I remember something about the garnish and them saying, hey, by the way, for backyard this year, we're gonna do no garnish. And I saw this guy. I don't know if he's still in the circuit because I don't remember who it was, because I had like a little hiatus before actually competing again. But man, he lost it. He's like, I just bought kale at Food Lion, and he's like throwing his chair around. I was like, man, this is serious. And I didn't realize, And at that point, I was cooking off like a Kamado Joe that I toted on the back of my F-150, which was a bad idea in general because it's a ceramic cooker. But I was behind a pot. I was slathering my baby back ribs every hour with Sweet Baby Ray's. I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, the Ham Squad just kind of came along as just something that was a little bit different. A lot of teams have like the barbecue at the end of their name, or their name in it. I didn't think people wanted my last name associated with barbecue. But yeah, I mean, Ham Squad has kind of stuck with it. It's simple. I like when I have an organizer that doesn't know me and I get a call and they say the Ham Squad. It just sounds fun, So, but yeah, it's just kind of stuck.
That's pretty good. I mean, I tell you, if y'all ever want to get entertained, come out to a competition barbecue and just sit for awards and hear the team names.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the names is just hilarious and funny. And some of them you just want to scratch your head and be like, really? That's what you want to call yourself out there?
Yeah.
Uh, and then you got like some one-off teams where some teams partner up and have like one-off names. It's kind of funny also, but
Yeah.
it is interesting just seeing the entire process about the whole thing. So the area you cooked in, when you said you first started, you kind of started in the backyard. What kind of made you choose to cook in the backyard?
So the first time, so I kind of, like I said, I started like 16, 17 was my first competition. And it was just because I saw a flyer at like Food Lion and I was just like, oh, I'll go ahead and enter this competition. It was 15 minutes from my house. Didn't really think anything of it. And then I actually moved out to Southwest Virginia. Whitville is the town, and lived out there. And I was working at this community college, and I was walking, introducing myself to the staff at the college, and I walked by this guy's desk, and it had a KCBS sticker, and I was like, it like clicked in my head. I remember seeing this 3 or 4 years before. I was like, that looks super familiar, and I asked him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm a barbecue judge." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And I actually got into judging kind of first, other than that one competition. So I took a judging class down at Grill Billy's in Raleigh, North Carolina, or Wendell, and him and I traveled around and did some competitions. And one of the things we found out traveling around was there was not a lot of competitions near where we lived. So him and I came up with the idea of Zombie Q, which is one of the competitions that I run. And I had talked to Childs, I had talked to some of the other teams that were local, and they were telling me about what to do for a contest and all this stuff. And Scott Sinnett, he is with oh man, I can't remember. Meadow Creek Barbecue is his new team name. He lives down in Galax, and I just kept getting emails from him bugging me like, "Hey, you should have a backyard contest." And I was like, I didn't know anything. I was I was a judge that was thinking about doing a barbecue competition, and we had this whole plan for downtown, and we were going to do just Master Series, and then they wanted to add backyard and all these things, and the county actually, or the town backed out a month before the contest, and they said, we're not going to make any money off of this. We don't want to do this. And as you know, towns don't make a lot of money off of that. They make it off the beer and the events and stuff. So last minute we switched. Travis Murphy just typed it in the Apex Center. It was it's a horse rodeo kind of venue. It's like the size of a football field inside. But we had the event up there, and Scott kept bugging me, add backyard. And we decided to add backyard. I kind of did some research and found out it wasn't going to, at that time, backyard, people weren't chasing. There was no point chasing, right? It was just getting out there and cooking and talking crap about each other, right? And, I was walking around the morning of the contest asking the backyard teams to take a poll on how we should split out the prize money, because I didn't know what I was doing. And, Scott was helping, Steve Dotson, Travis Murphy, a lot of the guys that we now call ourselves the Border Brothers, the West Virginia and Virginia guys that started in backyard together. They were there that year. And, it was October right before COVID. I moved up to Charlottesville, and some stuff happened in my life personally. And I was in a pretty crappy place. And, I started talking to the Border Brothers, right? We made our own little group, and we were chatting. We did a practice cook up at my house, and that next June I started cooking backyard. And honestly, I think that group, saved my life. They're still some of the best friends that I have. It's that camaraderie. It's the fun part. The reason I started with backyard is I didn't know any better, to be honest with you. It wasn't really a choice. It was I knew these guys. These guys were going to help me out, and they were telling me kind of where to go and what to do. And we all worked together and taught each other all kinds of things. So that was kind of why I started with backyard, I guess.
So one of the things I want y'all to take away from this, if you want to meet amazing people, absolutely, truly amazing people, and I've done this for a number of years, get into competition barbecue. Get into it as a judge. There are amazing judges out there. Get into it as a team's cooking barbecue. That's where I fell in love with the people and everything we've done with it. Or just come out and start volunteering and being a help. Just helping these contests just do what they got to do. There's a lot of work goes into contests, but when you get in there, you start meeting these people. It'll take a little while to kind of get your feet wet, kind of feel like you can go up there and talk to somebody. But I promise you, I don't care how big or how small the rig they got, they'll talk to you. 95% of the time. I mean, there's a few out there that's doing the long wolf deal, so it is what it is. But most of the time, everybody out there is going to be totally involved and want to help you out there because we want you to cook, we want you to come out and be part of it, we want you to judge, we want you to feel like you're involved in everything. And hey, a lot of teams come out and let you cook with them. So I mean, definitely something that I say, keep doing it, coming out there and being part of it. If you want to meet amazing people, Competition Barbecue is where I would say would be the place to go to for that. And hey, why don't we ever have the competition inside the Apex Center?
Well, they wanted to do it inside the Apex Center, and I think Childs is the one that turned it down, or didn't turn it down, but he was really kind of my mentor on that because he had been doing so many competitions. I knew him through the Wades, and then some of the other judging people, and he was kind of help and guide me. One of the concerns was, if somebody drops something and the dust gets, torn up or whatever. But it was always an option. It was always they wanted to do it. They had some pretty high powered fans. You never know. It might come back. We might do a winter contest at the Apex Center now that they have a pro hockey team at the Apex Center.
No, we're talking about the one there in Virginia in the mountains, right? That's what we're talking
Oh
about.
yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So kind of a backstory, totally off topic here. So I live on the coast of Myrtle Beach. Okay. And so we were going to do a contest up here. I think the last one we done up there in that area. And it's a beautiful part of the country. If I've never been to that part of the country, it's a beautiful part of the country. It's absolutely amazing. So we go up there and there's a hurricane coming. So we're like, okay, we're not going to be on the coast. We're going to go up to the mountains. But the daggum hurricane decides to go up the other side of Appalachian Mountains and come through there. And so we're on top of this mountain doing barbecue competition, and hurricane winds come through there in the top of Virginia, whatever. So my back awning just done a can opener, pull it off of there. It's blowing wind and everything else. But nobody ever pictures of this. So I'm out there in sleeping undergarments and a rain jacket on top of a camper trying to put my awning back down to get it down so I don't tear the hole in the awning. And I'm like, what in the world? How did I come up here to the mountains in Virginia up here and still getting to the damn hurricane?
Yeah, we're known for our weather. My contests, for some reason, cross my fingers because last October we had Zombie Q down in Galax, and it was the most beautiful contest I think weather-wise that I've ever been a part of. But yeah, if you've been at the Apex Center, it's at the top of a hill overlooking 81. It's always got wind, no matter what. My buddy Chris Lemon in West Virginia, he jokes that every single time he's in Virginia, it's windy. Every single time he's at a competition. I mean, we had canopies flying up. I thought they were going over the interstate. We had an earthquake one year at our contest. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks, Jamie. Last year in Williamsburg was my first year at the Williamsburg contest. We had about 5 inches of rain in 3 days. So I don't have the best luck with weather. But it's one of those things where whenever we're working with most of my contests are kind of private. I run them. We do the awards. Public can come if they want, but it's not a whole spectacle, right? But Williamsburg is more of an event. It's a 3-day event with the public and tickets and all that stuff. And the organizer on that side was like, man, are your teams and judges going to be okay? What can we do? I said, they're happy. They know that this rain is, and not that they're happy, but you guys know on the competition world, that's just how it is. I said, my biggest concern is let's make sure the public has a good time. So last year, even though it was a rainy, wet year, it was still definitely worth it. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about it. I was talking to somebody today. I said, you ever been on the perfect vacation? Nothing ever happened wrong. You don't remember. What you remember is the vacations where the tire went flat. What you remember is the vacations where something crazy happened. And the Zombie Q contest has some amazing stories. If y'all see me at the contest, I'm not getting into it here, but you see me at the contest, sit down, we'll drink a drink, and I'll share some stories with you to really just make you laugh. So it was absolutely amazing as a whole. So the first time I really, truly met you was Zombie Q, but kind of when I first actually kind of got to know you and stuff like that was actually in Roof Steak Series.
Yeah.
That's where we kind of started used to it, because I know you was organizing the zombie queue. We done it the first time up there. But then when you started finding out you was actually cooking, was actually the zombie, the Rooster Teeth series, and we started doing some competitions together. And at the time, like I said, you were a backyard in there, and you were coming cooking it. And I remember you telling me like, I can't do with so many pros, or I can't do backyard. And I know we was trying to fill up a contest. I'm like, well, just do pro. And you're like, we're thinking about it. So before we get into that conversation here, explain to people out there what backyard competition is.
So backyard competition in this sense of the word is essentially the tier in KCBS that cooks two meats, sometimes three, sometimes four, but two meats are the only ones that count for the GC now in KCBS. So the biggest difference is the cost to enter. Usually it's like $150 instead of 300, and those are just rough numbers, right? Usually they provide a smaller space size. Usually the trophies may be a little bit smaller, or the prize money is obviously less because, you're paying in less. But it's, when I first joined, it was like, okay, this is where I can get my feet wet with competition barbecue and see where I stack up, see, if this is something that I, want to do on a regular basis. And at the time, and I know they've changed a lot, there are certain things that you can't do to stay in the backyard. You couldn't cook more than 4 contests in a calendar year, or in a competition year. You couldn't cook more than
Master Series
12 master.
backyard.
Sorry, yes, Master Series contests. And you could cook 10 competitions in backyard and win every single one of them and stay in backyard. You still can do that. There's no regulations on the backyard side, so you can go cook backyard for the rest of your life if you really want to, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think that a lot of people think about it as a lower tier. To me, it's if you see a lot of these single meets, the backyard teams are neck and neck with the master teams in chicken and ribs, and I think that. The other thing is, for backyard, if you cook more than 12 Master Series contests at all over your whole career, you are now out of backyard. You can't cook it anymore. And then the last stipulation when I was still in backyard was you couldn't win, or once you won a grand championship or a reserve grand championship in the Master Series, you were done with backyard. They've since changed that to 2, I believe, within the last year. But to me, it was always, the Alabama teams, for example, a lot of them have been cooking backyard for years. And, there's sometimes a connotation of, oh, you're staying in backyard because you're afraid to move to Masters or something like that. And I think that the biggest misconception there is why people do things the way they do them. It's, you can't make that judgment call about someone or a certain team, in my opinion. One of the reasons I moved to Masters was because I could hit a few more contests actually closer to me. It made more sense to be able to do more contests because, I could, at the time, Currituck is like an hour and a half from me in North Carolina. Lots of northeastern North Carolina contests near me that are master only. Richmond, Fredericksburg at the time, DC. A lot of my backyard contests are up north or in West Virginia. But then when you talk to somebody like, I'm just going to shout out Leela Q and Rib Life and old Sloth down there, Lennox and Son in Alabama, they can do 35 competitions if they wanted to in backyard in their state. So that makes sense to me. I don't see any problem with that. I don't see why anybody would say anything about that. Personally, I think everybody can have their own opinion and stuff like that. But to me, it was a decision to do backyard at the time because I knew all the people, and I really, at that point, I knew I could travel a lot more, and I had less money invested in the process if I didn't win. I liked the idea that if I had a lower entry fee and a lower kind of overall cost, it didn't matter if I won or lost. I could do 30, 35 contests in a year. I don't see doing that in Master Series. It's just unless I win, unless I do well.
Yeah. I mean, you start adding in brisket and pork into the equation, it drives the cost
Yeah,
up. No doubt about
yeah.
that. Um, but the thing about kind of talk about the backyard from a judging perspective, it's judged by the same standards.
It's judged by the same standards. It's usually the some judges get, they draw a coin or a, a number, and that's where they are sitting. And they judge, and we all, as an organizer and a judge and a comp team, I see all aspects. There's some teams that say, or some judges, oh man, I have to judge backyard. I know a lot of judges, especially in the Mid Atlantic, that look forward to judging backyard more than master. They feel like there's a little bit more creativity in the backyard. There's a little bit more like risk taking on maybe different flavors, or different cooking methods. But I think that the biggest thing for people to realize is they're the exact same judges across the board. And sometimes they actually don't know they're judging backyard until they don't get pork and brisket, or they don't get brisket if it's a 3 meat. I personally like that. Like, I wish that we did that more often, because there are people that have a preconceived idea of what to expect if they're judging master or backyard.
Yeah, I mean, I almost would love to have it where it was either going to be even contest inside of contest, which is just totally just my brain fart because it's not something in big conversation. But go to contest and you go, okay, you got 2 meats, you got ribs and chicken. That's going to be the first contest. Then you got pork and brisket. You have people that compete head to head for all of them because I'm not. Again, I understand the backyard's whole philosophy in there, but I'd like to go sometimes just cook chicken and ribs and not necessarily worry about the other ones. But I can't do that because I've
Right.
cooked so many years in the G on the pro on master side. So I mean, it
Yeah.
kind of is almost to the point that it's kind of like the way they got it set up is they're almost limiting the number of teams come out there and just cook a backyard contest. Now, I understand the philosophy, I understand the reasoning. I totally get into that. So I'm not saying it's wrong decision. Again, it's just something other just me thinking outside the box on different things like that. But when you're talking about the judging here, so you've kind of stepped into the master side this was it last year or this year? I think last year,
Last
wasn't it?
year. Yeah, last year.
So you kind of stepped into the master side last year. Um, Before we kind of get into the success that you've had this year, which is awesome, by the way, what was some of the first things you really, truly, from a team that got into that you actually noticed that you didn't expect?
Um, I do not like waking up really early in the morning to cook brisket. I'll tell you that right now. A lot of times, some of the other backyard teams will make fun of me. When we did 3 meats in backyard, I would put my pork on overnight because I didn't really care about it, and I thought it was going to taste fine. And most of the time, it did. I just cooked it at like 225 and just did my thing in the morning. But yeah, I would say definitely. Starting earlier. Number one, I think that I was super nervous about brisket, just because it's the most expensive meat, right? And you're trimming, slice off. You just lost $10. Here's $15 going into the grinder. But now I have some really good friends that get pounds of wagyu ground beef at the end of the season. But I would say I was surprised how quickly I became confident with brisket. I honestly, my chicken kind of remained the same as far as like scoring and whatnot. My ribs started out like they were in backyard. They weren't, you know, stellar, but I kept getting better and better in that. Pork is the one that I'm still struggling the most in my opinion. But I think the biggest thing I learned from the entire process was timing. Um, you can wake up at 8 a.m. and cook a backyard contest and like not do any prep. Not I shouldn't say win a contest, but you can cook a backyard contest and wake up at 8 a.m. and have a little bit more free time. And that is in no negative to backyard at all. It's a lot. Adding two more meats is a lot. It's overwhelming. When I do cook with most of the time I cook by myself. This year, every contest I've done, I cooked with myself or had somebody kind of just like wiping my tables down when I left. But I love cooking with Steve Dotson because he has a feel for tenderness with the probe, and I can just focus on chicken while he's doing the other three meats, finishing them up or whatever. So I think the biggest thing is time and figuring out what did I forget, what do I need to do at certain times. I'm a trim chicken at the competition kind of guy,
Oh,
and yeah, that's a whole nother story. It all started. It all started 2 years ago. I couldn't find thighs, and my buddy Steve told me to cook legs, and I was like, "Oh, sure, I'll cook legs." And I stayed up till 2 a.m. trimming legs on Friday night, and then cooked them on Saturday. Didn't turn them in. They were good. And then Sunday, I was like, okay, I'll cook them again. I got a 180. So now, like the thought is, I have to trim chicken at 2 o'clock in the morning on competition day. I've backed it down hour by hour at every contest. So now I can still I'll do it on Friday, but I won't trim it before contest. I never trim chicken before contest anymore.
but you're doing legs, not thighs.
I'm doing legs. Yep. Yeah.
Uh, thighs is a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But man,
And I
I
saw
done.
Richard posted in the chat. I cook on Rectex, so I cook on a pellet smoker. So I have a 590. I cook my pork on. I have a 700 that I cook my chicken on, and then I cook my brisket and my ribs on a bullseye.
So y'all out there, some people said that the pellet smokers can't compete. I'm telling you right now, you really truly don't. That's not correct. Pellet smokers are are very strong with doing it, but you have to know how to cook on them. You got to know what the flavor is going to be, how they're going to work with the pellets, the flavors and stuff come in there. Once you tie that flavor down, then you got an oven, and when you got an oven, you can control a lot of stuff. I mean, and that's the thing about it is whenever we've talked about the kind of show in different times is when we cook and we want to basically keep everything level. And with the gateway drums that I'm cooking on right now, it's pretty close to it, but it's still got some fluctuations. We had two of them in Iron Station. The wind shifted and they just basically killed two drums. So I had to start moving some meat around. We done a contest down in Florida, and the way the trailer was pointed right into the wind, I was in good shape out there because the wind wasn't necessarily just I kind of going around my trailer, and I didn't have to deal with the wind. But a lot of people were having a lot of hard time with the wind out there, different stuff, stick burns and everything. So the elements out there play a very critical role in there, and that's when it damages like a pellet smokers. You tell it to do what it's going to do. As long as you got power, it's going to do what it's supposed to do. But now, power's another situation. Sometimes cooking
Yeah.
overnight, and all of a sudden the power goes out, and you don't know about it in the morning. It's a whole different
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh yeah.
Definitely doing that. So talking about the Master Series a little bit here, kind of getting to the Master Series. Like I said, you've seen some things you've learned and stuff in there, but how um, how more competitive is it than excuse me the Master Series over the backyard? Kind of getting into it, you say judges and stuff's the same, but from a competitive standpoint, what have you seen the difference in the competitive standpoint of it?
Um, I think it's different. Number one, you have just based off of math, you have a better chance to you have more opportunities to get a call. I shouldn't say a better chance. You have more opportunities to get a call because you have five categories if you count overall versus three for backyard. But what I find is I kind of compare it to like the SEC versus like another conference. I'm not going to pick on the ACC because I know you're a Clemson fan. Let's just say the Pac-12. When you go to the Master Series, I feel like there's people that have been cooking for a really long time, and I'm kind of speaking to the Mid Atlantic a little bit more because our backyard is really deep in the Mid Atlantic as well. But you're competing against, you start naming the teams that are at these contests, and 20 of them could win a GC any day, right? And another 10 could have a really good cook and finish in the top two or three, right?
Right.
For backyard, what you see is you see like 5 to 10 teams that are kind of heavy hitters, and a lot of times, at the contest in the Mid Atlantic, it might only be 12 or 15 teams. But if you go to like a contest like Smoke in the Grove or like a contest in Alabama, you got 50 teams. So, you could in backyard, you get one call and you could GC it. In master, you got to have that consistent cook for all 4 meats. It's one meat is, not having a really good cook in one meat is going to cost you a GC. It's not out of the 4 in backyard. You do have the risk of, if you bomb one, you're done, but if you hit one and you do pretty well in backyard, you can kind of get a top 3, top 5 call. But the error, or the margin of error in Master Series, I feel like sometimes gets you a little bit, because you're like I had one contest last year. I got a 180 in chicken, a 180 in ribs, 9th place pork, and no brisket call. And John Wade and Jason Wade are looking at me. Everybody's Dave's got this. I was 3rd overall with 2 180s, and my brisket was like a 171. It was a 707 3rd place in Ashland last year. So it's that level of competition. And who won it is Alan Clem, Under the Radar. Of course, he won that one in Virginia. So
Alan Clem, man, he Under the Radar. You talking about somebody that's consistent? God have mercy.
Oh yeah, he's got like the coal belt that goes through the country in Appalachia. He's got that. I don't know if he's sending them money or what, but man, he's unstoppable in the coal belt, all the way from northern West Virginia down through the mountains and into Kentucky and Tennessee. Man, he's unstoppable.
He is consistent, man. I am not joking.
Yeah.
He's consistent.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we struggle with. We could do a contest, and you're like, all right, we're doing the same thing every weekend. I mean, like we're sitting there changing for the most part. I mean, last year we played around, but this year, well, you hadn't done any contests. But it's kind of like you go to one contest, you RGC it with 7-11. We did in Florida. You do another contest up here in Iron Station, and you like mid-pack, and you like, the heck's difference, which some stuff changed. I mean, there's a difference to it, but you like consistency is what we're trying to get to, and we're trying to be consistent, always be consistent at the end of the day, and it just pulls your hair out of your head sometimes. You're trying to figure out what to do.
I think that's a great point. Like having that consistency, and I think also, as much as some of the judges and also some of the teams and some organizers might say that all the KCBS judges are judging to a specific standard. They are judging to a specific standard. I get that, and it is true. And but I do find, especially in Western North Carolina, they judge a little bit differently over there. That Iron Station area, Shelby, nothing against them, because some people do really well. I'm gonna give a shout out to Henry Jones. He kills it in Western North Carolina, and he came down to Florida and Georgia, and he was like, "Man, I don't know what I'm not hitting on," and his food's good, and it just seems to hit even more over there than it does, in some areas. And my food does not do. We have one guy, one of the teams that I cook with. I won't name him, but he cooked Shelby one year, and he says that he wasn't there because he did not have a great showing there. So, but yeah, it is interesting. That's, I would say, for those people that are getting into competition or are kind of in competition and you have a bad weekend, don't change everything. Don't, even if like you're getting top 3 chicken calls every week and you get a 15th place and you bomb chicken, you could have tasted chicken after somebody that put Fruity Pebbles in their sauce, for all you know. I wouldn't overthink it.
No, and that's a good thing. I mean, I always say go by rule of 3. So if you do contest and you get 3 comment cards that tell you unknown flavor, you need to reevaluate something other. Don't do a one-off. Go in there and do like a rule of 3. Go in there and do it. But also you got to, and this is the thing where a lot of times cooks really gets into, sorry about that, really kind of gets into our head sometimes, is because we think to turn the best food we ever turn in our life. Well, yeah, but we don't do it every weekend. Again, it don't matter, even on radar. I mean, I love him to death. I ain't picking on him, but even him, as consistent he is, going to have a weekend where it's not as good as it was a weekend before. So you got to be honest with yourself, because just like Iron Station, it was cold. So by the time my chicken left my table, and it was 180 chicken per se, by the time it got to the judge, and it was a one whatever it was chicken. Again, that's 30 degrees temperature outside. So we'll go 10 minutes between the time it leaves my warm environment where I can control everything to somebody tasting it. A lot of stuff changes. So you kind of get in the mindset of when you're judging barbecue, excuse me, when you turn in barbecue, like what's the judges actually tasting? Not what leaves my trailer, but what are they tasting? And when you get in that mindset, you actually can figure that part out. That's when you carry your game to a whole nother level. I think from a teams, somebody getting
Mm-hmm.
into it, we feel like, okay, man, it tasted good. Well, it tasted good, but did it taste good at 10, 15 minutes later?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with, the fact that you got to be real with yourself, right?
Yeah.
I can't count the number of times I've talked, man, I cook this every weekend and I don't understand. This chicken was the exact same thing I cook every weekend. I said it wasn't the same chicken because that chicken was not alive the last weekend you cooked chicken. As much as you might think that you're cooking the same way, Jamie Trader said it earlier, baking is a science. That's where you can kind of get that exactly the same, but you don't know, the protein, like there's if you talk to the right competition team, they'll get really into the science of it. But there really is a lot. Like you can't. There's certain things that you don't know and you can't control, and you have to figure out on the day of, or as you're slicing it, or sometimes you're feeling that brisket, and it's like, man, this is great, or it feels tough, and then you start slicing it, and it's tender, and you're like, what the heck, sometimes that just happens, and you just got to go with it.
Oh, it's definitely. I mean, you got different feeds, different time of years. You got different
Yeah.
cooking, different humid elevations. I mean, there's so much goes into it that, and please don't take this as me trying to scare some off cooking. We're getting into the details. You cooking at
Yeah.
home, 80% of this stuff don't matter. All right, because you ain't got a timeline, and you can go a little bit longer, and you can let it rest. Different stuff here. So we're talking about competition. So when we're looking at the details, we're getting into it. We're just being idiots because we keep doing this stuff over and over and over. But at the end of the
Well,
day,
and
that's kind of what we're
yeah,
talking about.
and like you said, like Jason, like I said, I just got done with a grilling class with Jason, and like all these people are asking, well, how long do you wait before you turn the asparagus or the zucchini from 10 to 2 to make the diamond? I said, we're doing it to make it pretty for your class today. When you're cooking at home, just cook what's good. When you
Yeah.
see a good sear on it, flip it over. Don't worry about the lines. Don't worry about the little things you and I are talking about right now, right? Those things aren't. And the other thing is, at home, I don't think most of the time you're cooking 4 meats on a 30-minute time schedule either, where you're having, oh, let me get my chicken done so I can get my ribs done. You're cooking for friends and family, and yeah, you can try some cool stuff out, but exactly like you said, the cool part is you cook to how you like it, and we don't have that luxury in competition barbecue, to cook how we like the food. We're cooking to how the judges and the standard is, which is not a bad thing. We just don't have the luxury of cooking it the way we want to cook it.
So with that comment, kind of getting back what you were saying earlier, that some judges like to judge backyard because they get more creativity in there. Are we basically hurting ourselves by being so rigid? Is it? Are we hurting ourselves because we're being so rigid that we can't go out there and experiment and do different stuff, and that's we're kind of all cooking the same thing? Would it be better to go out and experiment and do something a little different?
It's tough to say. I think anytime you have an opportunity to do a practice cook with some people, especially if you have KCBS judges, or if you have a contest that's a smaller contest that maybe you want to try new things at, that's your opportunity. But I'll tell you what, um, if I had a weekend open and I had the opportunity to judge a contest or do a practice cook with certified judges, I would 100% judge a contest. Because if I judge a contest that has, Luke Darnell, Charles Cridlin, John and Jason, Henry, I'm naming Virginia teams, but just, thinking around me,
Yeah.
even if I don't know whose box I got, right? Especially a smaller contest, because I know if there's 4 tables, I'm going to have each one of their meats because that meat is going to one of the 4 meats. So I then can taste this chicken and then talk to the judges and say, what did you guys like? And now I have that in my back pocket on what these judges that are already in my area like. So I can adjust my flavor profile. And again, we're all shooting for this Kansas City Barbecue Society flavor profile. I get that, but it's a tenderness game. My barbecue chicken could taste different than your barbecue chicken, Jason, but we could both get a 9. But the tenderness, if my tenderness is not the same as your tenderness, one of us is getting a 9, one of us isn't, if it's tender. So I think the flavor is a little bit less of a big deal, but I think that some of the judges like that they are getting a different taste, like you said. And, I think a lot of times, we have some really pretty looking chicken that goes out there on the tables, but I'd be interested to see at a 35, 40 team contest if we took all the boxes and grabbed one piece of chicken out of each one and lined them up on a table, and I told you, hey, Jason, go find Elite Barbecue Smokers chicken. I wonder if you could find it.
Turn it over. It's the name on the bottom of it.
Yeah,
turn it over.
I know, right?
On the bottom of
it. Put the EBS on the bottom. But no, seriously, I think that speaks in twofold. That speaks to number one, everybody's cooking well. Even if you think that you had a really good chicken cook, just because you had a really good chicken cook doesn't mean that everybody else was worse than you. They could have had an even better chicken cook. And then the second fold is how similar everything is. A lot of times they taste 6 pieces of chicken and it's literally like a margin of a point, or everybody gets the same score. Like, it's based off of a rubric. They're not judging against each other. So I think that's really important to realize as well.
Yeah, and that's one thing. That's also same point is when we had Rooster Teeth series going on, Lee Hickle from out in Texas out there come here and cooked, and he brought his flavor profile in there, and for a while there, it was different. He was just getting really high calls because it was just a little bit different in there. Now I think by the end of the COVID and everything kind of mellowed itself out, but it's a little different now. Same time is he could have tried that and it been too far and it would have hurt. So just because you succeed don't mean you always succeed. It's kind of like a yin and yang and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, I think to some extent you can be creative, like, um, putting, pineapple chunks in your barbecue sauce to get that pineapple flavor might be a little bit higher of an extent than, like you can score a 9 in chicken flavor. I'm picking on chicken because it's the first meat, but you can get a 9 in chicken if you use Heath Riles or Blues Hog or, a lot of these, eat barbecue sauce rubs, Sweet Baby Ray. You can get it on anything really. You just have to find that happy medium of the Kansas City style. It's not you have to use a certain rub or a certain sauce. It's this mixture of sweet with a little bit of heat and that savoriness. And I find that if your tenderness is not spot on, that seems to affect your taste score. Like, if you know that your ribs are tight, you're probably not going to just lose tenderness points. It's going to affect the taste of the rib as well, in my opinion. I think that, it gets in the judge's head and, they kind of see that. So that if you have perfect tenderness, I think you have a better shot of really scoring well than just having really good flavor. I've had really good ribs before that, as a judge when I was judging backyard down in Alabama, but it had like a big fat pocket. And it was just, but the flavor, I got a 9 and then a 7 on tenderness. And they were like, what the heck? So I think it's just really important. You got to hit all 3: appearance, taste, and tenderness.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect example, man. That's what you got to do. You go there and you're going to be focused on your tenderness. Flavor is going to be able to tweak it as you want to with finishing dust and different stuff. But if you don't hit tenderness, and somebody asked me the other day, like with a brisket, like, what temp you pull brisket off? I'm like, it's pork. So what temp you pull pork off? I said, honestly, I hit pork at 206, and then I basically put my thumb over that thermal pin, and I don't even look at thermometers for temperature. I'm going by feel. But I know around 206, all right, now it's time to start paying attention. So when I go by brisket, it's 208. Once I hit that temperature, now I'm going by feel. I don't care what it is. Now, the exception to that rule is chicken. If anybody can teach me how to probe chicken for tenderness, I would love to learn that one because I've yet to figure that one out.
I'm not giving away that secret yet. I'm not giving away that secret yet, Jason. Um, I learned everything from my big brother, Joseph Puccio.
Oh God.
But no,
I was expecting to be
it
older than
really
that.
is. It's one of those things, when you get back to talking about like the backyard cook and cooking for yourself. One of the things that I will point out, if you're watching these YouTube videos and TikToks and whatever else, and you're trying to learn how to cook, and you're watching these guys cooking competition meat, you also got to take into account competition meat is going to cook a little bit different than what your commodity pork and commodity ribs and choice or prime brisket. So my biggest thing is you're looking for that tenderness, and brisket might be tender. A choice brisket might be tender at a lower temperature than a Wagyu brisket, and you're really looking for that warm butter. And exactly like you just said, Jason, you know, I put probes into all my meat, and I have them for a certain temperature. That's when I'll take the probe out, and I'm exactly like you. I'll start feeling it, and you know, I've had brisket get up to like 213, 214, 215, and it blows my mind. But you know, it all comes down to that feel and that tenderness, and for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But again, when we start going by there and going by probe and going by the stuff here, oh, one other thing I was meant to say when you talking about the YouTube videos, and I made this comment to somebody at the contest, and I think they took it maybe a little bit construed, but here's what I'll say. When we doing a video, and I'm doing a video showing you how to do pork, or how to do ribs, or how to do chicken or brisket, whatever else, you got to take consideration what I'm trying to do in that video. I'm trying to hold your attention so you'll watch the entire video, get all the information. So I'm trying to take a cook that's going to take 6.5 hours and put it into an 8-minute video. So in that, I'm not trying to hide stuff to it. It's just unless you're watching me doing a live video for 6.5 hours, there's pieces to that puzzle you're not going to see in there. It's not that I'm not trying to hide it, I'm not trying to showcase it. It's just that I'm trying to get your attention, because if not, you'll be sitting there like, okay, this is boring, and you'll move on to the next video. So anytime you're seeing these type of videos, you're seeing this information in there, ask the question in the comments, because most of the time we'll answer the question there, but there's a lot of pieces in that puzzle that might not be shown in that video because we're trying to get everybody to basically watch it. And one of the curses to YouTube and to the Facebook videos and everything else is retention. I want you to basically retain retention to keep you watching the video. And so that's something other to kind of get involved with that. So when you see this information, take it as a high level notes about what can we do to hit these high points. That's what we want to share with you. But that will never take the place of a face-to-face class. It's good information. It'll show you good tips and tricks and stuff here. But if you want to learn the detail into it, you either have to go through the time frame to learn it through the process, cooking your own, or you need to take a class or kind of get mentored by somebody. But that's where you'll learn a lot of them pieces in there, or create them on your own. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that, I struggle with, even in the classes. They're so, like, if somebody's shadowing me, or like this grilling class we did tonight, they're so focused on like, what do I have to do? Like, what temperature are potatoes done, if you're boiling them? Like, some of that is a little bit like, I think they're used to watching the YouTube videos and getting those key numbers and stuff, but exactly like you said, like, you get a feel for it, you start to, and you'll learn like some of the things that save you time. And I think one of the things is people are really surprised when you go to a class about some of the things that um you just kind of do that are, more feel and not scientific or analytical, right? Like the tenderness at pork, it's 206, and then you start feeling it. I have so many people that are like, no, but like, when is it done? I need to know the number. And I just tell them there isn't a number, and then they lose their mind, but there really isn't, right? I mean, I could tell you 205 for a pork butt at home, put it in a cooler, let it sit for a couple hours, and you're going to have really good pulled pork. For competition, it's just a different ball game, because you have to hit the tenderness spot on, and you don't want it to be over tender. At home, I want that pork to fall apart. I want the ribs to fall off the bone. I don't mind that. Yeah.
Yeah, pork at home, I'm going to hit 208, 210 because I want to make it easy to
Yep.
tear apart and still be
Yep.
juicy. I mean, I got one on the smoker right now. I'll check it in a minute. But That's what I'm shooting for. I'm going for to fall to bone tenderness. But a competition, I won't have the consistency for tenderness I'm looking for.
Yep.
Definitely is lot of stuff going in there. So, what would you kind of on a final note with this here? Somebody that's looking to get into competition, which way would you kind of direct them to get into? Would you say focus on your area, or would you say go in the backyard, or what would you say?
I think it all depends on. y- I would traditionally say backyard. I think that it's an easier method of entry. You learn a couple meets. I know some people that own restaurants and they want to jump into master because they want to have the trophies in their restaurants. And but then once they start to learn all the ins and outs and test it out, I just don't like to see these people that live somewhere where maybe there's a master contest every year, and they go ahead and just do that one every year, and then all of a sudden they can't do backyard. So I think it's just really important to know you can jump in and do master series. There's nothing against that, and you may do really well with it. I'm not saying you won't, but keep your options open for as long as you can is what I would say. Um, you know, I would, if it were me again, I would do exactly what I did. I would jump into backyard. I would do the competitions that I really enjoy doing. I would travel the country. I really enjoy doing that. Sometimes money isn't an issue for people. They can afford to do a lot of stuff. They're either retired and they have a little bit of a purse back there that they can spend it on. But learn, talk to people. Don't hesitate to ask. Like Jason said, no matter what size your rig is, you can walk up to anybody and talk to them. Even if you're just there as a fan of the sport and of the hobby, come out and talk to people. And even if like there's not like a people's choice where you're going up to the tents and stuff like that, most of the time you can kind of walk over to the cook teams and just don't go between like 11:30 and 1:30. That's all I would say. That's the busy time. Don't go over there and ask me, what kind of ribs I use while I'm slicing my ribs, please.
But do go to that to the Smoke Show Mafia. He appreciates all that help.
Oh yeah, he loves it. And bring him. I think he likes Yingling beer when he cooks his chicken. I think he likes the good stuff.
We're giving Fuchsia a hard time here, but there's a lot of stories to this.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, I would say in the same situation, backyard is don't count out the local sanctioned bodies. We're focused on KCBS, and it's because we've basically been doing that. We got the family, the friendship stuff. We do KCBS, but you got the South Carolina Barbecue Association. You got the North Carolina Barbecue Association. You got South SBN, Southeastern Barbecue Network. You've got other contests and sanctioned bodies in different areas and stuff here. FBA, CBA, all these different stuff here. So don't just Great Lakes Barbecue Association. So don't count out those local states or local regional competition associations. Go out there and cook those. We're talking about KCBS. All right, that's what we kind of do. But if you want to kind of get your feet wet, I started at SCBA, South Carolina Barbecue Association. If you want to learn how to cook pork, you do SCBA. But they truly teach you how to do pork, you'll give up on it. But
Hmm.
that's the thing about it is just go out there and just be willing to cook. You got the SCA, do steak cook-offs. Go out there and do that.
Yeah, any sort of competition, even if it's not sanctioned, if it's a local thing where you just
Yeah,
want to get out there and cook, that's honestly the best place to start because then there's no pressure of these certified judges and all these things. Start with your small stuff. Start with whatever's local to you that you're not having to rent a trailer. You can cook on a Weber, Smoky Mountain, or grill or whatever, and just show up and cook and try it out. Or I have a lot of people that I've talked to and I've met in the barbecue world, either as judges or like at Ace when I do like a little pop up, or I did the Rec Tech Academy a few years ago, or I mean last year, and like I had down in Atlanta 2 weekends ago. One of the guys that was part of my team at the Rec Tech Academy lived like 2 hours south, and he's like, "Hey, can I come like hang out while you're cooking?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So he came and he learned a lot just coming and hanging out. So I'm always open to have people come and help me out and learn and ask questions. So I know Jason's the same way. So don't ever hesitate to ask these guys.
yeah, and reach out to us. We're happy to tell you anything we got. I mean,
Yeah.
so we want to come out there. The whole purpose of the show is get somebody out there. willing to cook at home, practice different stuff. We're willing to take a gamble and try something other. What's the worst thing that happen? You mess up, you do it again. I mean, just go out there and just try something. That's what you want. We want you to do and stuff. You want to give a shout out to your sponsors and stuff?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Springer Mountain Farms chicken sponsor, Chicken Q. It's a new thing, the Q Crew, I think they call it. Heath Riles Barbecue. I started using their stuff this year, and it's really changed my rib game. And my number one sponsor is Two Drummers Butcher and Barbecue. I work with them a lot. They help me out with the meats and the rubs and the sauces, and I kind of work on their IT stuff on the back end. But if you're not following me, Ham Squad up here, and then those other 4 logos are my contests that I run. So like Jason was talking about, like if you want to get out there, all of our contests have backyard except the Delaware one that's coming out this week. So if you are a master team that wants an auto to the jack, we are now having a Master Series contest in Delaware in September. So Zombie Q is in Southwest Virginia in October. That's the purple and the orange one. And then Revolutionary Barbecue Brawl is next month in Williamsburg, Virginia. And then First State Barbecue Bash will be in Delaware in September. So come on out to any of those. We'd love to have you, even if you just want to come hang out.
So in the description below, if you're on YouTube, check it out. In the description, you'll be able to find a link to all these different contests. I've got his contact information from Facebook, Instagram on there now, and TikTok I think also. But I will get the link from him. We'll update the description, so you just got to have the links you go straight to sign up for contests. Come out there and sign up. And if you don't come out there and cook, sign up and come out there and be part of it, be a volunteer. I mean, we're always looking for people to kind of be volunteers to help out with the contest, private contest. I promise you, you eat all the barbecue you ever dreamed of eating at the contest. But volunteers, we look for that. So make sure you check that out. Also, like we talked about a couple last weekend, we got flyers. I hope to go out next week. We're going to have a barbecue school class here in Conway at my house. We're going to have a kind of come out there. It's going to be kind of a hands-on, not necessarily a tell-all class, but more kind of an introduction to barbecue. I got another buddy of mine that's going to be part of the cooking instructor class group of us, so it'll be a lot of fun with that. So we're looking at doing that. So make sure you check all that out. The show right here, make sure you like, share, subscribe it. Check us out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and share it. YouTube Music, you see all past shows on there. One day we'll make to this podcast. When it goes live, we'll probably have 200 episodes. First one in the history of podcasts. Got many episodes, but we're going to make that happen hopefully sometime soon on there. But again, shout out to our sponsors. We got Royal Oak Charcoal, Heath Riles, Spring Mountain Farms, Snake River Farms, Rec Tech Academies. So we've got a lot of great people, great sponsors. But y'all get out and be part of this. See us at contest. Come shake our hands. We'll be happy to tell you everything we've got. Follow us on social media. We'll be happy to help you any way we can. Appreciate y'all watching. See you next time.